Disclaimer. Discussion of murder and suicidal ideation. Pretty malevolent typical stuff, all things considered, but, if that stuff bothers you, I'd prefer you keep yourself safe rather than watch this. Kayne is the main antagonist from the horror podcast Malevolent, entirely made by Harlan Guthrie. And after the series recently concluded, I figured I'd celebrate by taking a closer look at the entity that has lived rent-free in my head since he showed up playing that goddamn piano. This video will be split into roughly 4 parts, each one dedicated to tearing apart a different aspect of Kayne and or how he's presented to the audience. His lies, identity issues, self-hatred, and suicidal ideation. And if that sounds interesting to you, kick back, grab a cup of tea, and let's get right into it.
Everything I've done is honest!
The way we're first introduced to Kayne is very interesting. He's set up, or rather sets himself up, as a very particular trope that I, for the sake of ease, will call the deal maker. Think Alistair from Hazbin Hotel or Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. Just like them, he seems detached or unbothered by human morals or emotions, except of course for boredom.
Sorry about the mess. I got bored waiting.
At the same time, he displays power in an effortless, almost relaxed sort of way. He slips the information about Carcosa's destruction into an aside, remarks that he has lived Arthur's life, barely batting an eye.
I watched your life unfold, Artie. I went back to see. I watched you grow. You graduate. You fall in love. Or let's call it like. I watched your parents kill themselves. I watched your wife die. Your child drown.
And even implies that he's all-knowing to a certain degree. This cements a big part of what makes the trope, his power. A power so great he feels no need to expand upon or prove it further, not necessarily out of pride, but simply because it's true. But what of the other name-giving side of the trope? Well,
I enjoy our little repartee. I'll make you a deal.
Now, to be fair, this exchange comes from his second appearance. However, I would argue that this still enforces the trope already being built in the listener's mind, especially considering this is the exact next episode following his introduction. He makes the deal with Arthur to bring back John and throws in regenerating his limbs as a freebie. However, John will be lacking the memories the two of them have made since Arthur freed him from the book.
John comes back, owns your eyes, as he always did. You get your body back, but he remembers nothing.
Keep that in mind. I'll get back to it in a second. Kayne's next appearance plays into this role as well, as he appears, mostly it seems, to remind John of a deal the two of them have made, while being of no help whatsoever otherwise.
That wasn't the deal.
How am I supposed to get him to New York, let alone where you want him?
Whoa.
And then, in episode 40, Kayne reveals that he and John did indeed have a deal to get Arthur to New York and touch the Greystone, all the while keeping Arthur in the dark about the deal itself. Never mind that Kayne makes John reveal it anyway.
I said I stopped them from moving Johnny, but his ears still work.
Keep this in the back of your mind as well, it'll be important soon. The last deal relevant to his setup we see Kayne make, the final nail in the coffin that simultaneously cements him as a deal maker and breaks him out of the trope in the same breath, is one Kayne offers entirely unprompted.
I'll make you a little offer. How would you like me to wipe Arthur's memory?
Do it.
Nah.
But how does this accomplish two seemingly paradoxical things at once? Well, it's the follow-through, or rather the lack thereof. While he does propose the deal, a hallmark of the dealmaker, of course, he also immediately just shuts it down. Because Kayne differs from actual dealmakers in one very glaring area that immediately shuns him from the archetype entirely. He doesn't keep his deals. Not even in an ironic sort of rules lawyer reading between the lines type of way. No, he simply does not uphold his end of any deal. For this last one, it's quite obvious he simply refuses. But the other two? Well, the first one seems, on the surface, to have been kept, but there's one detail that breaks it from the ground up. If you remember, as I'm sure you do, you have great memory, you'll recall that the deal was for John to be returned with no memories. However, as we learn between Kayne's appearances, Yellow is not John. They are two entirely distinct entities, thus breaking the very foundation of the deal. And for the second deal, the one he made with John, the situation does become a touch more finicky because, well, John didn't fulfill his end of this deal either, even though Kayne claims he did.
Arthur's here. He knew nothing about why. He's touched the star
And you were released from the dark world. Contract fulfilled.
This simply isn't true. Kayne froze Arthur before he actually touched the stone, and, as I'm sure you remember me mentioning before, made John spill about his deal while Arthur could hear. Really, the only part of this agreement John technically achieved was getting Arthur to New York. So you might be thinking, but in this instance, Kayne kept his word even though John didn't. And you're right. Saying he doesn't keep any deal might have been a touch dramatic, but notice how Kayne didn't point out the fact that John technically failed to uphold his end. Notice how he didn't do the sort of rug pull an Alistair type character would have. Notice how he doesn't ever really fiddle with wordings or specifics or technicalities. It's because Kayne isn't a deal maker. He dons the mantle as a shorthand to make Arthur and the audience feel like we know what we're getting into, to skip all the annoying back and forth. He does it because he knows if he frames it as a deal beneficial to both parties, he won't be questioned on his motives, and the other party will follow through without much hassle for him. But at the end of the day, he doesn't care. He doesn't honor deals, not even technically, because he doesn't have to. There's no consequences, nothing binding him to his word, because frankly, who will hold him accountable? Who even could? That's why he doesn't point out that John failed. That was never the point. The point was always to drive a wedge between Arthur and John, to break the bond between them by revealing the secret deal John made with Kayne. It's the same reason he asks John if he should erase Arthur's memories and then doesn't follow through. He's trying to break them apart. At least that's the only reason I can think of for him pulling the Greystone deal, considering Kayne already knows where and when the Blackstone actually is. So, okay, we're all on the same page about Kayne's quote-unquote deals now, but that's not the only thing he contradicts himself on. I mean, look at what he has to say about choices.
It's not a choice. It's fate. It's all predestined.
I only lied because I had no choice.
Not true! Matthew had a choice.
No choice! Please. We all have a choice. You don't have a choice in this.
Like, bro, pick a line. Is it destiny and nobody can decide anything, or not? Either way, I think I've established that Kayne is untrustworthy and a liar. So, let's move on to the next part.
However, you, ironically, are. You are perhaps the greatest example of a god that cares. And I wondered why, but I think I see it now. You spent a long time amongst humans. You've seen the need in people to seek a higher power, to scour the skies for answers, and you somehow decided it was your job.
We need to talk about this monologue. I can't lie, I fucking hate it. But I will try to stay calm and objective as I explain why I fundamentally disagree with the sentiment. And just so we're clear, this section is mostly just here so I can peacefully rant about Arthur's fuck-ass monologue, because frankly, it pisses me off. And also it establishes Kayne as something he very much isn't, so I couldn't exactly just ignore it in a video like this. And to be fair, I don't think Arthur actually believes what he's saying here. It comes across, to me, more so as an attempt at placating Kayne to hopefully stall him just that much longer until the manager can activate the obelisk. It still makes me angry though. I mean, if Kayne cared, if Kayne gave a single shit about humans, he would not be killing people left and right. He would not play with people as he did in Carcosa. If he genuinely cared and wanted to make a big flesh wall reality where everyone can be happy and fulfilled, knowing they're serving their purpose, gross, by the way, then he would already be doing that. If his plan, or wager, or whatever you want to call it, was born of genuine care, and mind you, we know that he's already capable of flesh-walling people, because we hear him do it to Arthur and John in the finale, then he'd be going around flesh-walling people. But he's not doing that. Why? Because he doesn't care. There's exactly one one person he cares about in any sort of way. One person in all of the different universes and dimensions he even somewhat gives a shit about. And that's Arthur fucking Lester. And only because Kayne's daughter claimed him as her favorite, and he's incapable of being normal about anything his daughter likes. To the point that him obsessing over everything Lilith likes is a huge part of her plan to defeat him. So let's talk about that, shall we?
But, to put it another way, I killed him. And all that remains is...
Kayne.
So why does Kayne obsess over one Arthur Lester like he's the beholding turning its gaze upon Jonathan Sims? Well, I mean, Lilith spells it out for us.
You obsessed over him for years, all because of 2 tiny words I whispered to him. My favorite.
She claimed him as her favorite, and Kayne reacted exactly as she knew he would, by making that one thing that brings her joy his entire personality. By confronting him with the fact that Kayne can't stand his own existence, but she can. She has something she genuinely likes here, and he doesn't understand. What about this guy could possibly be so special as to make his daughter resent her life less than he does his? And why should she get to enjoy this morsel of genuine happiness? No. That's Kayne's. That, whatever it is, he'll figure it out and take it and feel less shitty about himself and his existence and this reality. And I still have to prove that Kayne hates himself, don't I? But, I mean, look no further than his introduction. Not only does he dodge the question of who he is 3 times, but he also remarks this.
What do you want? That's the question, isn't it? That's more important than who I am.
That's not really something you say if you're a big fan of yourself, in my opinion. Besides, he's very purposefully avoiding talking about himself, and not just here either. I mean, as we all know, Kayne loves going on tangents or getting off topic, but if you pay attention, never are any of these unrelated rants about himself. The only times he actually brings up things about himself is in intermezzo, when he has to contextualize his plan for Arthur's sake. But, you know, maybe it's just another case of not caring. I mean, that's what he claims, even.
Me? Who fucking cares?
Because, as we all know, the less you care about something, the louder you yell when it's brought up. Never mind that he immediately and swiftly changes the topic away from himself and to how pathetic Larson is, which he is, of course, but deflection is also Kayne's favorite way of avoiding himself and his issues. Once you know to listen for it, you notice it every time he shows up. I mean, they even refer back to the name thing later, and...
You said, who cares? Exactly! Exactly, Arthur. You get it. It's not about the names we're given. It's about the names we choose.
But are you him?
Are you he?
Deflection. He moves on to explain his piano metaphor of the universes after this, by the way, fully blazing past anything to do with himself, which I suppose is fair enough in this case. I wouldn't want to be that named either, to be honest. And maybe that still isn't enough to convince you. But that's okay, because I haven't even touched on my biggest argument yet.
Each key, each dimension, each world, with its own entire timeline and series of events distilled from the choices you've made. The successes, the failures, all of them exist with their own little version of me. Until I killed them.
Kayne has, approximately several billion times over, killed himself. That's not something you do if you like yourself, I would argue. Though, to be fair, they weren't technically him. They were different versions of him, so it wasn't really suicide, was it? Except Kayne drops this wonderful line on us.
And then he found out where it was. And then I had my own plans, and I did find out eventually, but if I had been such a... I wasn't there. I was there. I wasn't there. Not me, but me!
Which heavily implies that Kayne has a couple issues around identifying himself as a separate entity from his other versions. Besides that, he also says this:
We, as gods, have pieces of us on each and every one of these keys.
So, yes, actually, Kayne does consider those other versions of himself to be him, or a part of him in some sense anyway, which, again, means he has knowingly killed himself over 1 billion times. And even now, if you still don't consider this as proof that Kayne is miserable and wants to die, let's talk about the finale, guys.
Oh, wait a minute! You know what? Heck, even if I lost my wager, let's do it anyway!
He says it right here, clear as day. His wager cannot pay off, so him doing it anyway will kill him, alongside every other living thing that's ever existed. An idea that doesn't seem to disturb or upset him. The opposite, actually, considering the fact that only a few lines later, he starts happily singing a song about committing mass murder-suicide. Kayne does not want to be alive, guys.
Are you not angry at his indifference? Are you not frustrated by an indifferent god?
Right. So, to summarize, Kayne is a liar that doesn't keep his end of the deal, who doesn't care, wants to die, and who uses his plan to make a big happy reality to deflect and lie to himself about the fact that he feels like shit. That's what I surmised anyway. And what differentiates him at the end of the day from the manager is a very obvious and fundamental incomprehension of connection, of affection, of relationships, of friendships, anything like that. It's peppered throughout the entire podcast, how he views relationships as purely a means of manipulating others, yet despite being hugely jealous of not having any himself, he doesn't actually understand them. He can't allow himself the vulnerability that would be needed to form a meaningful connection, because that would mean confronting his self-hatred, his wish to die head on, rather than burying it under the lie of a big, purposeful flesh wall. That's generally what I thought going into this analysis, and even through writing/researching most of it. And truthfully, I still agree with a big part of this conclusion. But at the same time, as I was reading the transcripts, I noticed something.
Boys, that was your cue.
This line, this singular line, made me rethink a big part of the conclusion I originally came to. I mean, mainly the bit of Kayne lying to himself as well as everyone else about wanting his wager to work out, but like still. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me back up a bit. Give you all a little more context. This line is spoken right before Kayne starts singing about wiping everyone and himself from existence, and right after declaring his wager lost. He says it to the band he has not exchanged a single word with since Arthur showed up. So, the fact that he had a cue prepared for the song "We Will All Go Together When We Go" implies that he was planning on this very thing, planning on dying alongside all of existence since before Arthur returned to the Waylay. Which also implies, in turn, that Kayne has been knowingly lying about the blissful flesh wall thing since the beginning. And that makes a shocking amount of sense, actually. For one, his plan, quote-unquote, was to ascend to Azathoth's place after killing him. But he never expands on the idea any more than that. And I mean, neither does anyone else, right? Not once does he, or anyone else, explain how he came to the conclusion that killing Azathoth would actually make him ascend to the sleeping god's place. He describes exactly once that his odds of succeeding in this plan are in his favor, and I mean, thinking back on it, with this new lens, hold on. Let me play it for you.
What if I told you the odds, the honest-to-God odds of me succeeding at replacing Azathoth were better than 1 in 2? Better than a flip of a coin. You still have that coin, right? No, I don't. No? Here, catch.
Did he just bring up the odds so he had an excuse to give Arthur the coin? To plant the fake-out lighter? The conversation turns sharply away from odds or probabilities or explaining how Kayne's apparently so favorable plan is supposed to work immediately after this. And sure, maybe you could say he just didn't think it through. Maybe he's just stupid. Maybe he's just being very impulsive. But there's a big issue with that explanation too. And that is that canonically, Kayne has killed every other version of himself aside from the manager that's ever existed. That is not the same as his very impulsive killing of the Arthurs, because the Arthurs, at the end of the day, are just humans. They are far from the power level Kayne is. The other Nyarlathoteps, though, from even just what we see of the manager, we can assume they held a power level at the very least similar to Kayne's. So killing them all couldn't have been a quick, mindless, impulsive thing. There must have been some kind of underlying plan. Thus, the fact that his big master plan to overthrow Azathoth is so half-baked, it's never really made sense to me, to be honest. But if we consider that maybe all Kayne wanted was to just kill Azathoth and himself in the most dramatic suicide in history, and he never actually intended to ascend to his level, well, I mean, that does explain it, no? Kayne is the biggest attention whore I've ever seen, so it would make sense that his big final suicide attempt was this.
Sorry about the mess. I got bored waiting.
Being that's existed since the dawn of time, by the way, can't fucking stand himself for like 5 minutes.
The prospect of not knowing, I like it a lot. It's like a surprise party.
I don't want to know what's going to happen. However, I do wish to become an omniscient god in the most predictable, boring universe known to man. Something tells me you're lying about one of these things, dude.
All of them exist with their own little version of me. Until I killed them.
Bro, do you, need to talk? Or something?
John! I mean, look at John! John! What kind of great old one calls himself fucking John, for fuck's sake?
Oh, what? Because Kayne is so much fucking better? I mean, what the fuck are you? An ex-Catholic with religious trauma who was feeling a little edgy?
Me? Who fucking cares?
Kayne said, calmly.
To talk, to destroy me, what's the difference?
Fascinating mindset.
And I had to think to myself, well, what happens if I kill Azathoth now that I'm the most powerful being in existence?
Incredible leap in logic, buddy. You should become a trapeze artist.
Relax. No one's getting out of this one alive.
Wow, okay, so we're just stating it outright then, huh?
One could say it's quite the wager.
One could also say you want to kill everyone and then yourself.
And you, daughter,
He's turned to Lilith.
wanted to stop that!
Hate when my daughter tries to stop me from committing suicide by killing me.
Not Kayne, please. The manager, if you would be so kind.
So is there a Mrs. the Manager, or...
No other hue could match the perfect off-white of the inside of an eye. Or the putrid green that comes from squeezing a gallbladder.
Fully a skill issue, by the way. Color matching is like a whole thing. I mean, I can't do it because I can't mix colors for shit. But yeah, this is fully a skill issue, man.
You want to talk about bad dads? Oh, Azathoth! He takes the cake.
Daddy Issues McGee strikes again. And also, that's fully not true. There's so many worse dads out there. What are you talking about?
Are you not angry at his indifference? Are you not frustrated by an indifferent god?
Do you know what a mirror is? And with that, and great, awesome, immediately fuck it up, whatever. So that's my first little analysis type video that I've ever made, and I hope you guys liked it, and I hope it helped you come to terms with shit. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you about my incredible, awesome Patreon, where I have a lot of fun bonus content. I have this 24 hours stuck in the waylay challenge that I did once. We have, of course, a fan favorite, the $1 million tier, where if you subscribe, I send you a rib of myself. I send you a new one each month, obviously. The other way, it's a subscription model, of course. What else? Oh, there's that month I spent in the dark world that I documented for you all. That was really fun. Well, it wasn't fun at all, actually. That's the whole point. But, it was fun. Besides all of the bullshit that I just made up, I do actually also sell stickers and keychains if you want to check the link in the description. Stay weird, guys.